She called him a cold, ugly monster, never imagining that stranger on the plane would become her new boss. Between turbulence and unfiltered confessions, Bella felt something she never expected, his firm touch calming her panic, those penetrating green eyes reading her soul, and a chemistry so intense it took her breath away. And it wasn't because of the altitude. When their lips almost touched at 30,000 feet, she realized she was falling. Literally. If you've ever felt those butterflies in your stomach just thinking about a forbidden love, subscribe to the channel now. Leave your like, because stories like this deserve to be shared, and comment where you're listening to this story from, the one that's about to make your heart race. Your support keeps these emotions alive here. Bella never imagined that a simple flight back to New York could change her life forever. She was exhausted. The past few months had been a marathon of architectural projects, sleepless nights, and reheated coffee. All she wanted was to sit on that plane, close her eyes, and forget that on Monday she'd have to face her new boss, a man who, according to office rumors, was cold as ice and feared by everyone. Entering the aircraft, Bella dragged her carry-on down the narrow aisle, dodging hurried passengers. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with someone's citrus perfume filled her nostrils. She found her seat, aisle row 12. Perfect. At least she wouldn't have to ask permission to use the restroom. That's when she saw him. A man was already seated by the window. He wore an impeccably pressed white shirt, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing defined forearms. His dark hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd run his hand through it absently. But it was his eyes that froze her for a moment. Green, intense, penetrating. He looked up from the book he was holding and watched her with an unreadable expression, something between curiosity and contained amusement. "Excuse me," Bella murmured, pointing to the middle seat. He stood with natural elegance, and she felt the warmth of his body as she passed. There was something magnetic about this man, something that made her stomach tighten in a way she couldn't name. Bella settled in, adjusted her seatbelt, and tried not to think about the stranger beside her. Tried not to notice the subtle woody scent emanating from him. Tried to ignore the masculine presence that filled all the space around her. The plane began to taxi. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes. Flying always made her tense, but today was worse. The anxiety about the new phase at work, the pressure to impress an unknown CEO, it all weighed on her shoulders like a backpack full of stones. Suddenly the plane shook. Once, twice, 3 times. Bella's heart raced. Her hands gripped the armrests. The pilot's voice echoed through the sound system, too calm for the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're passing through a zone of turbulence. Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened." Another shake, stronger. Bella swallowed hard. Fear rose up her throat like a wave. She hated this. Hated the feeling of having no control, of being suspended between sky and earth with nothing she could do. "It's okay." The deep voice beside her made her open her eyes. The man was watching her with a serene, almost comforting expression. His green eyes seemed to see beyond the surface, as if they could read every line of panic written on her face. "It doesn't feel okay," Bella replied, her voice trembling. "I feel like we're going to fall any second." Turbulence is normal. The plane is built to handle much more than this. Another violent shake made Bella's stomach flip. Without thinking, she grabbed his arm. The muscle beneath his shirt was firm, solid, real, something to hold on to while the world seemed to crumble. "Sorry," she said, but didn't let go. "You don't need to apologize. You can hold on as long as you need to." There was something in his voice, a genuine kindness that contrasted with his imposing appearance. Bella breathed deeply, trying to calm herself. His touch was warm, comforting. She felt his fingers moving subtly over hers, a minimal gesture but full of intention. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm not normally like this. It's just, this week has been tough, and on Monday I have to meet my new boss, and everyone says he's an insensitive tyrant." The words came out in a cascade, unfiltered. It was as if the turbulence had knocked down all her barriers. "A tyrant," he repeated, and Bella swore she saw a contained smile on his lips. "Yes, they say he's cold, calculating, that he fires people without blinking. And to make it worse, I'm sure he must be one of those horrible men, ugly, with no social skills whatsoever." The man tilted his head, his eyes shining with what seemed like pure amusement. "Do you know him personally?" "No, thank God, but I've heard enough. Gabriel Ashford. The name alone gives me chills." "Gabriel," he repeated, almost as if savoring the word. "Interesting." Bella finally released his arm, feeling her cheeks flush. Why was she venting to a complete stranger? "Sorry, I think the turbulence threw me off." "Don't worry, I enjoyed listening. It's refreshing." He extended his hand. "Gabriel." She shook his hand, feeling the warm skin, the firm grip. "Bella." "Pleasure, Bella." When their fingers touched, an electric current ran up her arm. She pulled her hand away too quickly, confused by her own reaction. The plane continued to shake, but now Bella barely noticed. She was too busy trying to understand why this man, this complete stranger, made her feel so alive. "So, Bella," Gabriel leaned slightly toward her, closing the distance between them. "Tell me more about this terrible boss." And she did. Between nervous laughter and reckless confessions, Bella revealed her fears, her expectations, her frustrations, and Gabriel listened, really listened. His eyes never looked away, his attention never wavered. The turbulence passed, but the storm that had begun between them, that was only just starting. The plane stabilized, but Bella's heart kept racing, and it had nothing to do with turbulence anymore. Gabriel was dangerously close, his shoulder almost touching hers. The cramped cabin space seemed to have shrunk even more, creating an intimate bubble where only the two of them existed. "You know," he said, his voice low and velvety, "I think you're being too hard on this boss of yours." Bella rolled her eyes, feeling strangely comfortable with this stranger. "Impossible. You don't work there. You don't know what the atmosphere is like. Ever since they announced he'd be taking over, everyone's been walking on eggshells, afraid to breathe wrong." "Maybe he's just misunderstood," Gabriel suggested, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Sometimes people create an image that doesn't match reality." "I doubt it. Where there's smoke, there's fire." He laughed, a deep sound that reverberated in her chest like a musical note. "You're pretty firm in your opinions, aren't you?" "When it comes to work, yes, I've spent years dedicating myself, building my career. I'm not going to let some arrogant CEO destroy everything." Gabriel's green eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. Bella felt her face heat up under that gaze. There was something there, a curiosity, an interest that went beyond casual airplane conversation. "And what exactly do you do?" he asked. "I'm an architect. I specialize in sustainable projects. I love creating spaces that breathe, that integrate with the environment instead of competing with it." His face lit up. "That's fascinating. Tell me more." And she did. She talked about her latest project, a residential complex that used solar energy and rainwater collection. She talked about her passion for transforming concrete into art. She talked until she forgot where she was. Gabriel listened with an attention Bella rarely encountered. He asked intelligent questions, challenged her ideas respectfully, shared insights that showed surprising knowledge about architecture and sustainability. "You know a lot about this," she commented, impressed. "Let's just say I have an interest in building things that last," he responded, enigmatically. The flight attendant passed by offering drinks. Gabriel ordered a whiskey, Bella a red wine. When the glasses arrived, he raised his in a toast. "To the unlikely meeting of two souls in turbulence." Bella laughed, clinking her glass against his. The chime of the glass echoed between them like a bell marking a significant moment. "You're different," she said, surprising herself with her own sincerity. "I didn't expect to meet someone like this on a flight." "Like what?" "Interesting. Real. Most people pretend to be busy, avoid talking." "Maybe I'm lucky," he replied, his eyes fixed on her. "I sat next to the right person." Bella's heart leaped. There was something in the way he looked at her, as if she were the only person on the plane in the entire world. Another shake, smaller this time. Bella instinctively flinched, and Gabriel's hand covered hers before she realized it. Their fingers intertwined naturally, as if they'd always belonged that way. "It's okay," he murmured. "I'm here." Bella looked at their intertwined hands. His was larger, enveloping hers completely. His thumb traced gentle circles over her skin, a gesture so intimate she forgot to breathe. "Gabriel," she began, not quite knowing what she wanted to say. He leaned in, bringing his face closer. The woody scent invaded her senses. She could see the details of his green eyes, golden facets that gleamed under the plane's artificial light. "You're beautiful when you're nervous," he whispered, his voice husky. "Actually, you're beautiful all the time." Bella's face caught fire. No one had ever spoken to her like this, with this raw intensity, this disarming honesty. "You don't even know me. I'm getting to know you, and I'm really liking what I see." She should pull back, should remember that this was a stranger, that in a few hours each would go their separate ways. But she couldn't. She was trapped by those eyes, that voice, that touch that burned her skin. "What about your work?" she asked, trying to regain control. "What do you do?" An enigmatic smile curved his lips. "Management, handling, complex projects." "Vague, very vague. I prefer to keep a little mystery," he teased, his thumb still caressing her hand. Bella rolled her eyes but smiled. There was something exciting about this game, this dance of partial revelations and guarded secrets. They talked for hours, about everything and nothing, about dreams, fears, childhood stories. Gabriel told her about growing up in Boston, about summers at his grandfather's house, about learning to sail on the ocean. Bella shared memories of New York, of her artist mother, of nights drawing under the living room lamp. With each word, the distance between them decreased. Their bodies leaned toward each other, magnetized. Their knees touched, their shoulders brushed. At one point, a strand of hair fell across Bella's face. Gabriel raised his hand and, with devastating gentleness, tucked it behind her ear. His fingers lingered, grazing the sensitive skin, tracing the line of her jaw. "Gabriel." Her voice came out trembling. "Bella," he responded, so close she felt his breath on her lips. The world disappeared. The other passengers, the engine's hum, everything evaporated. Only the two of them existed, suspended in time and space, caught in that moment charged with possibilities. "I don't do this," she whispered. "I don't connect like this with strangers." "Neither do I," he admitted, his voice rough. "But you're different." His eyes dropped to her lips. Bella held her breath. Was he going to kiss her? There in the middle of the plane, surrounded by people. But Gabriel just smiled, that enigmatic smile that drove her crazy, and leaned back slightly, creating a safe distance. Respectful. "We still have time," he said, though his eyes told another story. A promise, an inevitability. Bella nodded, her heart pounding. Yes, they still had time. But something told her that when the plane landed, nothing would ever be the same. Monday arrived with grey skies over New York, as if the city itself sensed the storm about to crash down on Bella. She woke up with her stomach in knots, a mixture of professional anxiety and an inexplicable longing for a man she'd known for only a few hours. Gabriel. Since the plane had landed on Friday, she couldn't get him out of her head. They'd exchanged smiles when disembarking, but no phone numbers, no promises to meet again. Just a prolonged look, loaded with unspoken meanings, before each went their separate way. Bella chose her most impeccable navy blue blazer, a white silk blouse, and the pants that made her feel confident. If she was going to face the fearsome Gabriel Ashford, she needed all the armor possible. She looked at herself in the mirror, adjusted her hair pulled back in an elegant bun, and took a deep breath. "You've got this," she told her reflection. The Ashford Innovations office occupied the top 5 floors of a midtown skyscraper. Bella had worked there for 2 years, but today felt like she was entering for the first time. Everything seemed different, charged with palpable tension. In the elevator, colleagues whispered, "I heard he came in early today. They say he fired 3 people at the Chicago branch in the first week. Apparently, he demands absolute perfection." Bella pressed her folder against her chest, trying to ignore the rumors. When the doors opened on the 23rd floor, the architecture department buzzed with nervous energy. Emily, her best friend at the office, ran up to her. "Bella, he's here. The CEO. He's having a meeting with all the department heads in half an hour." "Have you seen him?" "No, but I heard he's intimidating. Tall, serious, those eyes that seem to see right through your soul." Eyes that see through your soul. Why did that sound familiar? Bella shook her head, pushing away the ridiculous thought. New York had millions of residents. What were the chances? She spent the next half hour reviewing her projects, making sure every detail was perfect. When the announcement came, all department heads in the main conference room immediately, her stomach flipped. The conference room was spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Manhattan. Bella entered, holding a cup of coffee that served more as emotional support than anything else. About 15 people were already seated around the massive mahogany table. Everyone waited in tense silence. The door to the adjacent room was slightly ajar. Bella heard a deep voice on the phone discussing numbers, strategies. That voice? No, impossible. Her heart began to race, her hands trembled, and a few drops of coffee splashed on the table. She quickly cleaned it with a napkin, trying to compose herself. The door opened completely. A man entered with his back turned, still talking on the phone, broad shoulders under an impeccable charcoal suit, dark hair perfectly styled, confident, commanding posture. Bella held her breath. He turned around. Time froze. Penetrating green eyes met hers across the room. Those same eyes that had calmed her during the turbulence. Those same eyes that had seen into her soul at 30,000 feet. Gabriel Ashford. The coffee slipped from Bella's hands, the cup shattering on the floor in an explosion of porcelain and dark liquid. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Everyone turned to her, but Bella could only stare at him. Gabri, whoever he was, remained motionless for an eternal second. Then, slowly, a smile rose to his lips. Not a professional smile. That smile. The same one he'd used on the plane when she'd vented about her horrible, ugly boss. "Sorry," Bella murmured, falling to her knees to pick up the shards, her hands shaking so much she could barely hold them. "Leave it," his voice cut through the silence. Deep, authoritative, but with a note of something more, something intimate. "Someone take care of that." An assistant immediately appeared with towels and a broom. Bella stood up, her cheeks burning, feeling all eyes on her. Gabriel hung up the phone with a deliberate movement, putting it in his suit's inner pocket. Then he walked to the head of the table, each step measured, confident. He didn't take his eyes off Bella. "Good morning, everyone," he said, finally breaking eye contact to sweep the room. "I'm Gabriel Ashford, and I'm officially taking over as CEO today." His voice filled the space, commanding immediate attention. "I know there's speculation about my leadership style. Let me be clear. I demand excellence, but I also value innovation, dedication, and integrity." He paused, his eyes returning to Bella. "And I always recognize talent when I see it." The air left her lungs. There was a double layer to those words, a coded message only she could decipher. "Let's do a round of introductions," Gabriel continued, resting his hands on the table and leaning forward slightly. "I want to get to know each of you, starting with—" He pointed directly at Bella. "You." Everyone turned to her again. Emily nudged her discreetly. Bella stood up, her legs shaky. She forced professionalism into her voice. "Isabella Torres, head of the Sustainable Architecture Department. I've worked here for 2 years, focused on low-impact residential and commercial projects." "Isabella," Gabriel repeated, savoring the full name as if it were rare wine. "But your friends call you—" "Bella," she answered, her voice almost a whisper. "Bella," he echoed, and the name sounded different on his lips. "Intimate. Dangerous. Pleasure to officially meet you." His eyes sparkled with barely disguised amusement. He knew exactly what he was doing, knew the torment he was causing, the confusion, the shock. Bella sat down quickly, blood pounding in her ears. The introductions continued, but she absorbed nothing. She was stuck in a mental loop, reliving every word she'd said on the plane, every criticism, every insult. Cold, ugly, insensitive tyrant. Oh God. When the meeting ended, Gabriel dismissed everyone with a wave. But when Bella stood to leave, his voice stopped her. "Miss Torres, I need to speak with you, privately." The others left quickly, casting curious glances. Emily squeezed her arm in silent solidarity before disappearing, and then there were only the two of them. Gabriel walked to the door, closing it with a soft click. The sound echoed like a sentence. He turned, leaning against the door, arms crossed, that smile still playing on his lips. "So," he said, his voice husky and intimate, I think we've already met." The silence in the conference room was deafening. Bella stood paralyzed, her fingers gripping the folder's handle so tightly her knuckles turned white. Gabriel remained leaning against the door, blocking her only exit, arms crossed in a way that accentuated the width of his shoulders beneath the perfectly tailored suit. "You," Bella began, but her voice failed. She cleared her throat, trying to recover some remnant of professional dignity. "You knew, on the plane. You knew who I was." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Gabriel tilted his head, those green eyes studying her with an intensity that made her skin tingle. "I knew," he admitted, without a trace of remorse. "I saw your name on the passenger list when I checked in. Isabella Torres, head of sustainable architecture, one of my most promising employees. And you said nothing." She took a deep breath, trying to control the mixture of anger and humiliation rising in her chest. "You let me talk. You let me call you cold, ugly, and an insensitive tyrant," he completed, a dangerous smile curving his lips. "Yes, I remember well, every word." Bella felt her face catch fire. She wished the floor would open up and swallow her. "Why didn't you tell me?" Gabriel pushed off from the door, walking slowly toward her. Each step was measured, predatory. Bella instinctively backed up until her back touched the cold window. "Because for the first time in years," he said, stopping just inches from her, "someone was being completely honest with me. Not the executive trying to impress the boss, just Bella, real, unfiltered." He raised his hand, and for a moment Bella thought he would touch her, but Gabriel just placed his palm on the glass beside her head, creating an informal cage. "And I liked it," he whispered, his voice dropping an octave. "I liked it very much." Bella's heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel the heat emanating from his body, the woody scent that had haunted her the entire weekend. "This is inappropriate," she managed to say, though her voice sounded weak even to her own ears. "Completely," Gabriel agreed, but didn't move away. "And yet here we are." His eyes dropped to her lips, lingering there for a charged second. Bella held her breath. Was he going to kiss her? There, in the conference room, where anyone could see them through the glass walls? But Gabriel stepped back, letting her breathe again. "I have a meeting in 5 minutes," he said, returning to a professional tone, though his eyes still burned. "But us, we're not finished with this conversation." He walked to the door, opened it, but paused before leaving. "Oh, and Bella?" He turned, that devastating smile back. "For your information, I'm not ugly." And he left, leaving her alone with her racing heart and shaky legs. The following days were refined torture. Gabriel was professional, impeccably professional. In meetings, he treated her with the same respect he gave the other department heads. He asked technical questions, praised her work when appropriate, never crossed any visible line. But the looks, oh God, the looks. When Bella presented a project, she felt the burn of those green eyes on her. Not just observing the architectural plans on the screen, but observing her. The way she gestured when explaining, the way she bit her lower lip when she was thinking, how her neck flushed when she got passionate about an idea. In a meeting on Wednesday, Bella was in the middle of a presentation about a new concept for vertical housing with integrated gardens. She was pointing to energy efficiency charts when she felt it. That presence. She looked up, and there he was, sitting at the back of the room, chin resting on his hand, eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her voice fail mid-sentence. "Ms. Torres?" A colleague's voice brought her back. "You were saying about water collection." Bella shook her head, forcing herself to focus. "Yes, sorry. Rainwater collection would be integrated with the green facades, creating a closed loop." But her eyes returned to Gabriel. He was still watching her, and now a small, almost imperceptible smile played at the corners of his mouth, as if he knew exactly the effect he was causing. When the meeting ended, everyone stood to leave. Gabriel too, but as he passed Bella, he paused. His fingers brushed lightly across her back, a touch so brief it could have been accidental. But it wasn't. "Excellent presentation," he murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. "You look beautiful when you're focused." And he moved on, leaving her paralyzed, her entire body vibrating with that phantom touch. On Thursday, Bella was working late at her station. Most of her colleagues had already left. The office was silent, just the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant tick-tock of a clock. She was so absorbed in structural calculations that she didn't hear the footsteps approaching until a shadow fell across her desk. She looked up. Gabriel. He'd removed his jacket. His tie was loosened, shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms Bella already knew by touch. There was a tension in him, something coiled, contained. "Working late," he observed, his voice husky. "I have a deadline," Bella replied, trying to sound casual, though her heart was galloping. "The Sustainable Tower project needs to be ready by tomorrow." Gabriel walked around the desk, stopping behind her, so close she felt the heat radiating from him. He leaned in, looking over her shoulder at the computer screen. "Show me," he asked, his voice low, intimate. Bella tried to focus on the architectural plans, but all she could feel was his presence, the woody scent, his breath grazing her neck, his solid body so dangerously close. "Here," she pointed with a trembling hand, "we're integrating state-of-the-art solar panels that—" "Bella," his voice cut through her technical explanation. She turned slightly, and that was the mistake. Their faces were inches apart, so close she could see the golden facets in his green eyes, could count every dark lash. "Yes," she whispered. "It's getting harder and harder," Gabriel admitted, his voice rough, "to pretend you're just my employee." His thumb rose, lightly grazing the line of her jaw, a touch as light as a feather, but one that left a trail of fire. "Gabriel," she began, not knowing if it was a protest or an invitation. "Tell me to stop," he murmured, his eyes dropping to her lips. "Say it, and I'll stop." But Bella said nothing. She just looked at him, trapped in that impossible moment, feeling the world narrow until nothing remained but the two of them. His hand still rested on her face, his thumb now tracing the contour of her lips with devastating reverence. "You're driving me crazy," he confessed. "Every meeting, every look, every time you pass me in the hallway. It's torture." "For me too," Bella admitted, her voice trembling, honest. For an eternal instant, they remained like that, on the border between professional and personal, between appropriate and impossible to resist. Then the elevator beeped in the hallway. Voices approached, the night cleaning crew. Gabriel immediately stepped back, composing his professional mask as if putting on armor. "Finish your project," he said, his voice back to the executive tone, "and go home to rest. Tomorrow will be a long day." He grabbed the jacket he'd left on a nearby chair and walked toward the exit. But before turning down the hallway, he looked back one last time. And what Bella saw in those eyes wasn't the CEO. It was Gabriel, the man from the plane, the man who made her feel things no one else had ever awakened. And in that look was a promise, an inevitability. Soon there would be no more walls between them. Friday dawned with an email that made Bella's heart race before she'd even taken her first sip of coffee. From Gabriel Ashford to Isabella Torres. Subject: Priority Project, Direct Collaboration. "Ms. Torres, I need your expertise on a new venture. Confidential project, high impact. Meeting in my office at 2 p.m. Bring your best ideas about luxury sustainable architecture." G.A. Bella reread the email 3 times, searching for some clue between the lines. The tone was professional, direct, but there was something in the choice of words, direct collaboration, that sent a shiver down her spine. Emily appeared beside her desk, eyes wide. "Did you see? The CEO personally summoned you. This is huge, Bella." "I know," Bella murmured, trying to sound calm, though her stomach was doing flips. "What do you think he wants?" Good question, thought Bella. What does Gabriel Ashford really want? At 1:55 p.m., Bella stood before the executive office door on the top floor. The gold plaque simply read, "Gabriel Ashford, CEO." She smoothed her skirt, took a deep breath, and knocked. "Come in," the deep voice came from inside. Bella pushed the door open and immediately felt the change in atmosphere. Gabriel's office was intimidating in its elegance, panoramic windows offering a 180-degree view of Manhattan, minimalist designer furniture in shades of grey and black, and an enormous glass and steel desk that seemed to float in the center of the space. But what really captured her attention was the man standing by the windows. Gabriel had his back turned, jacket discarded, just his white shirt and dress pants outlining that body she already knew too well in her thoughts. His hands were in his pockets, shoulders tense, as if he were fighting some internal battle. "Close the door," he said without turning around. Bella obeyed, the click of the lock echoing too loudly in the silence. Her heart pounded. Gabriel finally turned, and the impact of those green eyes hit her as always. But there was something different today. A raw intensity, a determination that hadn't been there before. "Thank you for coming," he said, walking to the desk and leaning against it, arms crossed. "Please, sit down." Bella sat in one of the leather armchairs in front of the desk, placing her folder on her lap like a shield. Gabriel remained standing, studying her in a way that made her skin tingle. "You must be wondering why I called you here," he began. "Your email mentioned a project," Bella replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, a project." He paused, running his hand through his hair in a gesture Bella was beginning to recognize as a sign of nervousness. Impossible. Gabriel Ashford didn't get nervous. "We're developing a luxury residential complex in the Hamptons. 50 units, all sustainable, integrated with the coastal landscape. The investment is $200 million. Bella's eyes widened. It was huge, the kind of project that defined careers. "And you want me to lead the design?" "I want you to work with me directly." Gabriel pushed off from the desk, walking around it to get closer. "This project needs to be perfect, and you're the best person to ensure that." Bella felt a wave of professional pride, but also a pang of suspicion. "Why me? You have more senior architects in the department." Gabriel stopped in front of her, so close she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Because you understand. Not just the technique, but the philosophy. You don't build structures, Bella. You create homes that breathe, that exist in harmony with the world." He paused, his voice dropping. "And because I trust you." The words hung between them, loaded with multiple meanings. "Gabriel," she began, but he interrupted her. "Come. I want to show you something." He walked to a side table where architectural plans were spread out. Bella stood and followed him, stopping beside him. "These are the initial ideas," Gabriel explained, pointing to the drawings. "But something's missing. They don't have soul." Bella leaned over the table, studying the projects with critical eyes. Gabriel was right. The plans were technically correct, but cold, without personality. "You're thinking too much about numbers," she observed, her fingers tracing the lines. "Efficiency, return on investment. But people don't buy homes because of numbers. They buy because of how they feel." "Exactly." Gabriel leaned in too, and suddenly their bodies were dangerously close, shoulders touching, faces inches apart as they looked at the plans. Bella tried to ignore the proximity, focus on the work. "Look here," she pointed. "These windows, they're positioned for maximum sunlight, which is great for energy efficiency, but..." "But?" Gabriel's voice was low, intimate. "But they don't consider the sunset. In the Hamptons, the sunset over the ocean is magical. People want to capture that, feel that." Gabriel turned his head and suddenly their faces were so close Bella could feel his breath. "Continue," he murmured. "And the outdoor spaces," Bella continued, her voice getting weaker. "They need to flow naturally, not just attached balconies, but extensions of the living room, places where you can have coffee in the morning and hear the waves." She trailed off, too aware of the way his eyes watched her. Not the plans, her. "You're brilliant, Bella," Gabriel whispered, turning completely toward her now. "Absolutely brilliant." Bella turned too, and that was the mistake. Now they were face to face, bodies almost touching, trapped between the table and the glass wall. "Gabriel," her voice came out trembling, we shouldn't." "I know," he agreed, but didn't move away. Instead, his hand rose, fingers lightly grazing her arm, leaving a trail of fire. "Believe me, I know. I tried to convince myself of 1,000 reasons why this is wrong." "And?" Bella could barely breathe. "And none of them matter when I'm near you." His hand moved up, tracing the line of her shoulder, her neck, until it rested gently on her cheek. The touch was so intimate, so full of unspoken promises, that Bella felt her legs go weak. "Since that flight," Gabriel continued, his voice hoarse. "You're all I can think about. In meetings, alone at night, waking up in the morning. You're in every thought." "Gabriel, we're boss and employee." Bella tried to be the voice of reason, but her own hands betrayed her, rising to rest on his chest, feeling his heart pounding as hard as hers. "Then fire me," he said, a mixture of desperation and humor in his voice. "Send me away because I can't do this alone." "You know I can't," Bella whispered, "and I can't pretend anymore." Gabriel rested his forehead against hers, their noses brushing. "I can't walk into a room and not look for you. I can't hear your voice without wanting more. I can't—" He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was loaded with raw vulnerability. "I can't pretend you're just another employee when you're clearly so much more." Bella's eyes burned with unshed tears, because she felt the same thing. This impossible connection, this attraction that defied logic and professionalism. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice breaking. Gabriel pulled back slightly, just enough to look into her eyes. "We work together on this project professionally." A small, sad smile. "And maybe, along the way, we figure out if this between us is real or just temporary chemistry." Bella knew it was a lie. She already knew the answer. This wasn't temporary. It was deep, frightening, inevitable. But she nodded because they needed this illusion of control. "Professionally," she repeated. "Professionally," Gabriel agreed. But when he finally pulled away, his fingers lingered on hers for an extra second, a touch that said everything their words couldn't. And Bella knew with absolute certainty that professionally wouldn't last very long. The following 2 weeks were a delicate dance between professionalism and restrained desire. Bella and Gabriel worked together almost daily on the Hamptons project, meeting in his private office or in a small conference room on the top floor, away from the curious eyes of other employees. With each session, the barriers between them became more fragile. There were the seemingly innocent moments, when he poured coffee for her and their fingers touched for a second longer than necessary. When she leaned over the table to point out a detail and felt his gaze burning on the back of her neck. When they worked late and the silence between them became so charged, the air seemed electrified. And there were the moments that weren't innocent at all, like when Gabriel, reviewing his notes, murmured absently, "You have the most incredible perfume. It haunts me all day." Or when Bella, forgetting for a moment where she was, said, "You know you look even more handsome when you're focused. It's annoying." Every comment, every lingering look, every accidental touch that both knew wasn't accidental, everything accumulated like kindling on a bonfire waiting for a spark. The spark came on a Tuesday. They'd just received preliminary approval from the investors. The project was moving forward, and Bella's ideas had impressed even the most skeptical executives. It was a huge victory, not just for Gabriel, but for her too. When the video conference ended and the last person left the room, Bella turned to Gabriel, eyes shining. "We did it!" she exclaimed, joy overflowing. "They loved everything, every detail." Gabriel smiled, that genuine smile that completely transformed his face. "You did it. It was your work that convinced them." "It was our work," Bella corrected, feeling a wave of euphoria. "We did this together." There was something in the way she said "we," in the way her eyes met his, that made something inside Gabriel break. He stood from his chair, walking around the table with measured steps. Bella remained where she was, heart racing as he approached. "Bella," he said, stopping in front of her, so close she had to tilt her head back. "Yes?" Her voice came out in a whisper. "I tried." Gabriel raised his hand, fingers grazing the side of her face with devastating tenderness. "God knows I tried to keep my distance, keep this professional." Bella's eyes burned. She knew what was coming, and despite all logic, all reason, all fear, she wanted it too. "Gabriel," she began, but didn't have a chance to finish. He pulled her in, one hand wrapping around her waist, the other threading through her hair, and kissed her. It was like the world exploded in colors. The kiss was everything Bella had imagined and more, intense, hungry, but also incredibly tender. Gabriel's lips moved over hers with an urgency that spoke of weeks of restraint, sleepless nights, pent-up desire finally released. Bella melted into him, her hands rising to grip his shirt, pulling him closer. She felt the low groan that escaped his throat, felt the way his fingers tightened on her waist as if afraid she would disappear. When they separated for a second, just to breathe, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. "Sorry," he murmured, his voice hoarse. "I shouldn't have." "Shut up," Bella interrupted, pulling him back. The second kiss was even more intense. Gabriel gently pressed her against the glass wall, his body pressing against hers in a way that brought every nerve to life. His hands explored her face, her neck, down the side of her body, respectful but possessive. Bella buried her fingers in his hair, that hair she'd dreamed of touching since the first moment on the plane. It was soft, thick, perfect. "Bella," Gabriel groaned against her lips, his mouth moving to her corner, to her jawline, to the sensitive spot just below her ear. She arched her neck, giving him access, a sigh escaping her lips. The sensations were overwhelming. His warmth, the controlled strength in every touch, the woody scent that now enveloped her completely. "Tell me it's not just this," Bella whispered, her voice trembling, vulnerable. "Tell me it's not just physical attraction." Gabriel pulled back enough to look into her eyes. What Bella saw there took her breath away. Desire, yes, but also something deeper, something that scared and thrilled at the same time. "It's so much more," he said, his voice firm, fingers tracing her face as if memorizing every detail. So much more. He kissed her again, but this time with a sweetness that made Bella's eyes burn. It wasn't just desire. It was a promise. It was surrender. When they finally separated, both were breathless, hearts pounding, the world still spinning wildly. Gabriel placed his hands on either side of her head on the wall, creating an intimate cage, their faces so close they breathed the same air. "You know what this means?" he asked. "If we continue, there's no going back." "I know," Bella replied, her hand rising to rest over his heart, feeling it pound under her palm. "And I don't want to go back." Gabriel's eyes closed for a moment, as if he were fighting an internal battle. When they opened again, there was a determination there that hadn't existed before. "We'll have to be careful," he said. "The office can't know. Not yet. Not until we figure out how to handle this in a way that protects your career." "My career? You've worked too hard to build your reputation. I won't let rumors or gossip destroy that." He caressed her face tenderly. "When this goes public, it'll be on our terms. When we're ready." Bella's heart expanded. Even in the middle of passion, Gabriel was thinking of her, protecting her. "So, what exactly?" she asked, needing to hear it. Gabriel smiled, that devastating smile that made her legs weak. "You're mine, and I'm completely, irrevocably yours." He kissed her again, sealing the promise. And when they finally left that room minutes later, with clothes straightened and composed expressions, both knew they'd crossed a line from which there was no return, but neither regretted it. In the following weeks, they developed a routine. Stolen meetings in his office after hours, when the office was empty, coded messages by email that seemed professional but carried intimate meanings, glances across meeting rooms that said everything they couldn't speak aloud. And the kisses, God, the kisses, against the locked door of his office, in the isolated file room in the basement, once, daringly, in the executive elevator between floors, where Gabriel pinned her against the wall and kissed her until she forgot her own name. "You're killing me," Gabriel murmured on one of those occasions, his face buried in her neck, breath ragged. "Every meeting where I have to pretend you're just a colleague, it's torture." "I know," Bella whispered, fingers tracing the nape of his neck. "But it's our secret. Only ours." There was something exciting about it, the secrecy, the constant tension, the game of hiding something so intense under a professional facade. But there was also danger, because secrets, no matter how well kept, have a way of coming to light. And when they did, they would destroy everything. The final presentation of the Hamptons project was a resounding success. The investors not only approved, but increased the budget by 30%. Impressed with the innovative vision Bella and Gabriel had created together. It was the kind of victory that defined careers, that opened doors previously locked. When the last person left the conference room, Bella finally allowed herself to breathe. The tension of recent weeks, the intense work, the secret meetings, the constant pressure of hiding what they felt, everything collapsed in a wave of relief and exhaustion. Gabriel approached, his hands finding her shoulders, gently massaging the accumulated tension. "You were perfect," he murmured, his lips grazing her hair. "Completely perfect." Bella turned in his arms, eyes shining. "We were perfect. Come with me," Gabriel said suddenly, his voice loaded with intention. "My apartment. We need to celebrate." Properly. Bella's heart jumped. They'd shared stolen kisses, furtive touches, intense but always rushed moments, always with the fear of being discovered. But this would be different. "Gabriel, no pressure," he quickly added, though his eyes told a different story. "Just dinner, conversation, time together without having to look over our shoulders." But both knew it was more than that. It was a door opening, a choice being made. "Yes," Bella whispered. "Yes, I want to." Gabriel's apartment was in a historic building on the Upper East Side. The lobby was discreetly luxurious, all marble and crystal chandeliers, but Bella barely registered the details, too aware of Gabriel's hand on the small of her back, guiding her to the private elevator. When the doors closed, Gabriel pulled her in, kissing her with an urgency that spoke of weeks of restraint. Bella melted into him, her fingers threading through his hair, pulling him closer. The elevator beeped on the 20th floor. They separated, breathless, and Gabriel led her to a dark mahogany door. The apartment was exactly what Bella expected. Modern, minimalist, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of Central Park. But it was the atmosphere that captured her, a feeling of calm, of refuge, as if the world outside couldn't touch them here. "Wine?" Gabriel offered, walking to an elegant bar. "Please." He poured 2 glasses of a deep red, handing one to her. Their fingers touched and that familiar spark ran up her arm. "A toast," Gabriel said, raising his glass. "To the most extraordinary woman I've ever met, who challenged me, inspired me, and turned my world upside down." Bella felt her eyes burn. "To the man who made me believe again." They drank, eyes fixed on each other. The tension in the air was palpable, electric, like the moment before a storm. Gabriel set his glass aside and walked to the sound system, turning on music. The soft notes of jazz filled the space. Chet Baker, Bella recognized, intimate and melancholic. "Dance with me," Gabriel asked, extending his hand. Bella went to him, and when their bodies touched, when his arms wrapped around her and she rested her head on his chest, she felt something click into place. As if finally, after so long, she was exactly where she should be. They swayed slowly, unhurried, just existing together. Bella could hear Gabriel's heart pounding under his shirt, could feel the controlled strength in his arms, the reverence in the way he held her. "Bella," his voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. "If you want to stop at any moment, just say so." She lifted her face, meeting those green eyes that haunted her dreams. "I don't want to stop." His breath caught. For an eternal moment, they just looked at each other. All the vulnerability, all the desire, all the unspoken feeling passing between them in silence. Then Gabriel kissed her. It started gentle, almost reverent, as if she was something precious, fragile. But when Bella moaned softly against his lips, when her hands rose to unbutton the first button of his shirt, something broke. The kiss deepened, becoming more urgent, more necessary. Gabriel's hands found the zipper of her dress, lowering it with torturous slowness. Bella trembled when she felt the fabric slide over her skin, exposing her. "You're beautiful," Gabriel whispered, eyes traveling over every inch of her, with an adoration that made her blush. "So incredibly beautiful." She finished unbuttoning his shirt, pushing it off his broad shoulders, revealing his defined chest, tanned skin. Her hands explored, memorizing every muscle, every contour. Gabriel picked her up with surprising ease, and Bella wrapped her legs around his waist, lips finding his neck, nibbling, kissing, savoring. He carried her to the bedroom, a spacious suite dominated by an enormous bed with sheets in deep grey tones. City light came through the windows, bathing everything in a silver glow. Gabriel laid her down carefully, as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Then he leaned over her, supporting his weight on his elbows, eyes searching hers. "Are you sure?" he asked, and there was so much vulnerability in his voice that Bella's heart broke and mended at the same time. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." And that was all he needed to hear. What followed was a dance of discovery. Gabriel explored every inch of her skin with reverent hands and insatiable lips. He kissed the hollow of her throat, the curve of her breasts, the soft path of her stomach. Every touch was worship, every kiss a promise. Bella arched beneath him, her hands exploring too, the muscles of his back, the line of his jaw, sinking into his dark hair when pleasure became too much. "Gabriel," she moaned, when their bodies finally joined, moving together in a rhythm as old as time. "I know," he whispered against her lips, body trembling with restraint. "I know, my love. I feel it too." They moved together, lost in each other, the outside world disappearing until nothing remained but skin against skin, intertwined breaths, names whispered like prayers. When the climax came, it came for both at the same time, a wave that swept them up and left them trembling, clinging to each other, as if they were the only real thing in an unstable universe. Afterward, nestled under the sheets, bodies still intertwined, Gabriel traced lazy patterns on the bare skin of Bella's back. "It's not just desire, Bella," he murmured in the darkness, voice loaded with emotion. "It's so much more than that." Bella lifted her face, meeting his eyes in the silver glow of the city. "I know, Gabriel. I feel the same way." He kissed her, soft, tender, full of promises. "You're everything I didn't know I needed," he confessed. "Everything that was missing." Silent tears ran down Bella's face, but they were tears of joy, of relief, of finally finding something she didn't know she was looking for. "I love you." The words came out before she could stop them, raw and honest. Gabriel froze for a second, eyes widening. Then a slow, dazzling smile lit up his face. "I love you," he responded, his voice breaking with emotion. "God, Bella, I love you so much." They kissed again, and then once more surrendered to the flame that consumed them, savoring every moment, every touch, every whisper of love in the darkness. Because that night, they weren't CEO and employee. They weren't secret or scandal. They were just Gabriel and Bella, two souls who found each other in chaos and chose to hold on to each other. And in the silence of the early morning, as Bella fell asleep in Gabriel's arms, neither of them imagined the storm that was about to destroy everything. Bella woke up wrapped in warmth. Gabriel's arm was coiled around her waist, pulling her against his chest, and for one perfect moment she just existed in that bubble of peace. Morning light filtered through the curtains, painting everything in golden tones. She turned carefully, watching his face relaxed in sleep, the strong line of his jaw, the dark lashes against his cheeks, the slightly parted lips. As if sensing her gaze, Gabriel's green eyes opened, immediately focusing on her. A slow smile curved his lips. "Good morning," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Good morning," Bella replied, her heart expanding in her chest. Gabriel pulled her closer, kissing her forehead, then her nose, finally her lips in a sweet, lazy kiss that spoke of future mornings, of a lifetime of waking up together. "I don't want to leave this bed," he confessed, fingers tracing patterns on the bare skin of her back. "Or let you go." "Then don't." Bella snuggled closer, feeling safe in a way she'd never experienced before. But reality, as always, had other plans. Gabriel's phone began vibrating insistently on the nightstand. He groaned, stretching his arm to reach it. Bella saw his expression change instantly, from soft, warm eyes to the hard mask of the CEO. "What is it?" she asked, sitting up, the sheet wrapping around her body. Gabriel didn't answer immediately, eyes fixed on the screen, jaw growing increasingly tense. When he finally looked at her, there was something dangerous in his eyes, a contained fury she'd never seen before. "Get dressed," he said, voice cold, controlled in a way that scared her. "We need to go to the office now." "Gabriel, what happened?" He turned the phone toward her, and Bella felt her blood run cold. On the screen was an article from Business Insider, published less than an hour ago. "Scandal at Ashford Innovations. CEO maintains secret relationship with employee, conflict of interest in multi-million-dollar project." Below were photos of them. leaving the building together, her getting into his car. And the most damning, a grainy but unmistakable image of them kissing through his apartment window. Bella's stomach twisted. "No," she whispered, hands trembling. "How?" "Someone followed us." Gabriel's voice was like ice. "Someone sold us out." Bella read the article with growing horror. Each word was a stab. Internal sources reveal that Isabella Torres, 28-year-old architect, was promoted to department head shortly after CEO Gabriel Ashford took office. Coincidence? Now, with the romantic relationship exposed, questions arise about the legitimacy of her professional advancement. The Hamptons project, valued at $200 million, was led by Torres. Investors question whether business decisions were compromised by personal involvement. The company's conflict of interest policy explicitly prohibits relationships between supervisors and direct subordinates. "They're saying you promoted me because of us," Bella managed to say, voice breaking, "that I didn't earn it, that it was all favoritism." Gabriel dressed quickly, each movement rigid with anger. "You know that's not true. You were department head before we even met. You earned every damn thing with your own talent. But no one's going to believe that now." Bella stood up, searching for her clothes with trembling hands. "My reputation, everything I built, it's over. Destroyed in one article. We'll fix this," Gabriel said. But even he sounded less convinced than she needed him to sound. The ride to the office was tense and silent. Bella looked out the car window, watching the city pass in a blur, feeling like she was in free fall. When they entered the Ashford Innovations lobby, the whispers began immediately. Employees averted their eyes. Conversations were abruptly interrupted. Bella felt every look, every judgment, every speculation like arrows in her skin. Emily found her before she reached the elevator, eyes wide with concern. "Bella, I saw the article. Is it true? You and Mr. Ashford?" "Not now, Emily," Bella managed to say, passing by her. On the executive floor, the situation was even worse. Gabriel's assistant, Rachel, a woman in her early 40s who'd always been efficient and professional, could barely disguise the disdain in her eyes when she saw them together. "Mr. Ashford," she said, voice cold. "Legal is waiting. And there are..." She looked at Bella with something that seemed like triumph. 14 interview requests from various media outlets. "Cancel all of them," Gabriel ordered, "and call an emergency meeting with department heads and legal in an hour." He turned to Bella, expression softening only marginally. "Go to your office. Don't talk to anyone until we speak with legal." But before Bella could respond, her own phone began vibrating. It was her immediate supervisor, Marcus, from HR. "Ms. Torres, I need to see you immediately." The next hour was a nightmare. Marcus, accompanied by 2 people from the legal department, interrogated her about every detail of the relationship. When it started, how it started, whether Gabriel had offered professional benefits in exchange for personal favors. "No!" Bella almost shouted, tears finally escaping. "It wasn't like that. I met him before I even knew who he was. Everything I achieved was on my own merit." But she saw the skepticism in their faces. They'd already decided. She was the employee who slept with the boss to climb the career ladder. When they finally released her, Bella was shattered. She walked like a zombie to her office, closing the door and collapsing in the chair. Her phone exploded with messages, some supportive from close friends, but many others. Many others were cruel, judgmental, destructive. One in particular made her feel physically sick. It was from a fellow architect who'd always envied her. "Now we know how you really got that promotion. Must be nice to have the boss in the palm of your hand. Or better yet, in your bed." Bella dropped the phone, burying her face in her hands, sobbing silently. A knock on the door. Gabriel entered without waiting for an answer, closing it behind him. "Bella." She stood up, wiping her tears furiously. "They think I'm a corporate prostitute," she said, voice breaking. "They think everything I achieved was because I slept with you." Gabriel took a step toward her, but Bella backed away. "Legal recommended we distance ourselves," he said, and there was genuine pain in his voice. "Temporarily, until things calm down, to protect you, protect your career." "Protect?" Bella laughed, a bitter sound. "My career is already destroyed, Gabriel. Don't you understand? It doesn't matter what we do now. To everyone, I'll always be the woman who seduced the boss. That's not fair. No, it's not, she finally shouted, all the pain, anger, and frustration exploding. But it's reality. And you can just keep being the powerful CEO. Some will say you were foolish, but your reputation remains intact. Mine, it's over. Gabriel looked destroyed. Bella, please. We'll get through this. Together. But Bella shook her head, new sobs shaking her body. You said you'd fight for us, she faced him, eyes brimming with tears. Said you loved me. And I do. Gabriel took a step forward, but Bella raised her hand, stopping him. Then fight, she pleaded. Fight for me. Don't ask me to distance myself when I need you most. Gabriel's jaw tightened, eyes shining with emotion. I'm trying to do what's right. Right for whom? Bella interrupted. For the company. For your image. Or do you prefer to abandon me instead of believing in me, of standing by my side when it got hard? The words hung between them, loaded with accusation and pain. Gabriel opened his mouth to respond, but the door burst open. Marcus entered, expression grave. Mr. Ashford, I need to speak with you now. Gabriel looked at Bella, something breaking in his eyes. Then, without a word, he turned and left, and Bella was left alone, shattered in the office that once represented her greatest pride. Now, it was just a prison where her heart had been torn apart. The days that followed were the darkest of Bella's life. Gabriel, pressured by the legal department and the board, maintained absolute professional distance. In meetings, he barely looked at her. His emails were cold, strictly professional. It was as if the night they'd shared, the promises whispered in the dark, had never existed. And that hurt more than any article, more than any hallway gossip. Bella tried to keep her head up, but it was impossible to ignore the looks, the whispers that ceased when she passed, the growing isolation. Even Emily, her closest friend, seemed uncomfortable around her, as if she didn't know what to say. On Thursday night, a week after the scandal exploded, Bella was working alone in her office. Most people had already left. She stared at the architectural plans on the screen, but the lines blurred. She couldn't focus, couldn't feel anything but a deep emptiness. Her phone vibrated. Emily, need to talk to you. Urgent. Not over the phone. Coffee shop on the corner in 10 minutes? Bella frowned but replied yes. Anything to get out of that suffocating office. Emily was already waiting when Bella arrived, sitting in an isolated corner, eyes nervous, hands trembling around her coffee cup. What happened? Bella asked, sitting down. Emily looked around, making sure no one was nearby, then leaned in. Bella, I found something. And you're not going to believe it. Found what? Emily pulled out her phone, scrolling for a few seconds before turning the screen toward Bella. It was an audio recording. What is this? Press play, Emily whispered, voice tense. Listen to the end. Bella put on the earbuds Emily offered and pressed play. Initially, there was just static noise. Then a female voice emerged, clear and unmistakable. Rachel, Gabriel's assistant. Yes, I have the photos. I took some myself and hired someone to follow them. It wasn't difficult. They weren't exactly discreet. Another voice, male, that Bella didn't recognize. And you're sure this is going to work? Absolutely. When this leaks, she'll be finished. And Gabriel, well, he'll finally realize he needs someone more appropriate by his side. Someone who understands his world. Someone like me. You really think he's going to want you after he finds out you destroyed his relationship? A bitter laugh. He won't find out. And even if he eventually does, she'll already be out of the way. She's just an ambitious girl who used her body to climb the career ladder. Everyone already thinks that. I'm just speeding up the inevitable. The audio continued, but Bella had heard enough. She removed the earbuds with trembling hands, face pale. Rachel, she whispered, voice loaded with disbelief and anger. It was Rachel all along. Emily nodded, eyes shining with indignation. I suspected it. The way she looked at you, at Gabriel. So I started paying attention. Last night, I was working late and heard her talking on the phone. I recorded it without her noticing. Why would she do this? Bella felt nausea rising in her throat. Why destroy my life? She's in love with Gabriel, Emily replied. She's worked for him for years. I think she always thought that one day he'd see her as something more than an assistant. Then you showed up and, well, he fell in love with you in a matter of weeks." Bella buried her face in her hands, the weight of everything falling on her like an avalanche. All the pain, the humiliation, the isolation, everything was orchestrated by a woman driven by jealousy and obsession. "You need to show this to Gabriel," Emily said, touching her arm. "Now." Bella lifted her face, wiping the tears that had begun to fall. "He abandoned me, Emily. When I needed him most, he chose the company, the politics, everything but me. Because he was trying to protect you," Emily argued gently. "I've seen how he looks at you, Bella. That man is destroyed, but he believed he was doing the right thing." Bella was silent for a long moment, processing everything. Then, slowly, a new emotion replaced the pain. Determination. "You're right. He needs to know. Everyone needs to know." Bella marched back to the office with Emily by her side. It was already past 9 at night, but she knew Gabriel would still be there. He always stayed late, especially lately. The office was empty, silent, only emergency lights illuminating the way. When they reached the top floor, Bella saw light leaking from under Gabriel's office door. "Want me to come in with you?" Emily offered. "No. This is between the two of us." Emily squeezed her arm in silent solidarity, then stepped away. Bella took a deep breath and knocked on the door. "Come in." Gabriel's voice sounded tired, worn out. She pushed the door open. Gabriel was sitting behind his desk, tie undone, hair disheveled, as if he'd run his hands through it 1,000 times. When he looked up and saw her, something broke in his expression. "Bella." He stood immediately. "What are you doing here so late?" "We need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. Gabriel circled the desk, stopping a few steps from her, as if he wanted to touch her but didn't dare. "I'm sorry," the words came out in a torrent. "For everything. For not fighting harder, for letting them convince me that distance was the best option. I was a coward, Bella. And you deserved so much more." The words hit her, but Bella maintained her composure. She had something more important to do first. "You need to hear this," she said, pulling out her phone and connecting it to Gabriel's office sound system. "What?" "Just listen." She pressed play. Rachel's voice filled the room, each poisonous word, each admission of guilt echoing off the walls. Bella watched Gabriel's face change, from confusion to disbelief, from disbelief to a cold, controlled anger that made the air around him practically vibrate. When the audio ended, the silence was deafening. "Rachel," Gabriel finally said, voice dangerously low. "My assistant, the person I trusted for years. She destroyed me," Bella said, voice breaking despite her efforts to keep it steady. "Destroyed my reputation, my career, almost destroyed us. And all for what? Because she was obsessed with you." Gabriel pressed his hands against the desk, head down, shoulders tense. "I should have seen it," he murmured. "The signs were all there. The way she always tried to keep me away from other relationships, how she was always there. God, how was I so blind?" "You trusted her," Bella replied. "It's not your fault." Gabriel lifted his face, and what Bella saw there shook her. It wasn't just anger. It was deep pain, remorse, and something that looked like desperation. "But it's my fault how I treated you," he said, walking toward her. "You asked me to fight for you, and I chose to back down. I chose to protect the damn company instead of protecting the woman I love." Tears flowed freely down Bella's face now. "You hurt me, Gabriel. Deeply." "I know." He reached for her face, wiping the tears with his thumbs. "And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making up for it. If you'll let me. If there's still a chance." Bella covered his hands with hers. "Then fight for me now," she whispered. "Fight like you should have fought from the beginning." Gabriel's eyes shone with renewed determination. "With every fiber of my being." He kissed her, and it was different from all the previous kisses. It was promise, apology, and declaration of war against anyone who dared stand between them. When they separated, Gabriel was already dialing numbers on his phone. "Marcus? It's Gabriel. I need you and the entire legal team in the office in an hour." "Yes, now. Because we're going to have a very long conversation about Rachel Thompson. And then we're going to clear Bella Torres's name publicly, in a way that no one will ever question her integrity again." He hung up and turned his attention back to Bella. "Tomorrow morning, I'm calling a meeting with the entire company. I'm going to expose Rachel for what she did. I'm going to fire her publicly, and I'm going to make it absolutely clear that you earned every achievement on your own merit." "And us?" Bella asked, needing to hear it. Gabriel pulled her against his chest, arms wrapping around her protectively. "We're non-negotiable. If the company has a problem with that, we'll find another place. But I won't hide you, won't pretend you're not the most important thing in my life." Bella buried her face in his chest, finally allowing herself to feel relief, hope. "I love you," she murmured. "Even when it hurt, even when you disappointed me, I never stopped." "I love you," Gabriel replied, kissing the top of her head. "And I'll never again give you reason to doubt that." And in that moment, embraced in the silence of the night, both knew they'd survived the storm. Now, it was time to rebuild. Together. The following morning dawned clear and cold. The kind of day in New York where the sky seemed washed clean, every detail of the city sharp and bright. Bella woke early, but not in her own bed. She'd spent the night at Gabriel's apartment, nestled in his arms, finally feeling safe again after weeks of torment. He was already awake when she opened her eyes, watching her with that soft intensity that always made her feel seen, truly seen. "Ready for today?" he asked, fingers lazily tracing her cheek. "Ready," Bella replied, though her stomach was in knots. Today, everything would change, again, but this time for the better. At 9 in the morning, all Ashford Innovations employees were summoned to the main auditorium. The buzz was deafening. Speculation flew about the reason for the emergency meeting. Bella arrived a few minutes early, sitting discreetly in the back rows next to Emily, who squeezed her hand in silent support. Gabriel entered exactly at 9, followed by the legal team and the HR director. His presence commanded immediate silence. He stepped onto the stage with that natural confidence, but Bella could see the tension in his shoulders, the cold determination in his eyes. Beside him, escorted by security, was Rachel. Her face was pale, eyes downcast, hands visibly trembling. "Good morning, everyone," Gabriel began, his voice filling the space through the microphone. "I know there's been a lot of speculation circulating in recent weeks. Today we're going to clarify everything." He paused, eyes sweeping the crowd until they found Bella. For a moment, it was just the two of them, a silent connection crossing the crowded space. Recently, an article was published about an alleged inappropriate relationship between myself and Ms. Isabella Torres, our head of sustainable architecture. The article insinuated that favoritism and conflict of interest compromised business decisions. His voice was firm, authoritative. "I'm here to say that these allegations are absolutely false." Murmurs ran through the audience. Ms. Torres earned her position through years of hard work, exceptional innovation, and unwavering dedication. She was department head before I took over as CEO. Every project she led, every professional achievement, was earned on her own merit. Any suggestion otherwise is not only false, but defamatory. Gabriel turned to Rachel, his expression hardening. What wasn't public knowledge until last night is that the leak of information, the photos, the entire orchestrated scandal was the work of Rachel Thompson, my former assistant. Gasps echoed through the auditorium. Rachel kept her head down, tears streaming down her face. Gabriel signaled to the sound technician, and the recording began to play. Rachel's voice filled the space. Each poisonous word, each admission of guilt exposed for everyone to hear. When it ended, the silence was absolute. You could hear a pin drop. "Rachel Thompson is being fired immediately," Gabriel announced, his voice cutting like a blade. "Legal proceedings will be initiated for defamation, privacy violation, and corporate sabotage. Zero tolerance for this kind of behavior in my company." Rachel was escorted out, her sobs echoing until the auditorium doors closed behind her. Gabriel returned his attention to the audience. "As for the relationship between myself and Ms. Torres," he paused, and Bella felt her heart race. "Yes, we are in a relationship. It began unexpectedly, but evolved into something genuine and meaningful. We're taking all appropriate measures with HR and the legal department to ensure there's no conflict of interest. Ms. Torres will now report directly to the Vice President of Operations, not to me. He sought Bella's eyes again, and this time he smiled. That devastating smile that was only hers. And for those who have doubts about her character or competence, I invite you to review her portfolio. Bella Torres is one of the most talented architects this company has ever been fortunate enough to employ. And I'm proud, both professionally and personally, to be associated with her. The auditorium exploded in applause. Not everyone, some still looked skeptical, uncomfortable, but most recognized the truth when they heard it. Emily hugged Bella tightly. "You did it," she whispered. "You guys did it." Bella could barely process it. Tears of relief, gratitude, love flowed freely down her face. In the weeks that followed, life slowly returned to normal. But a new normal. Better, more honest, more open. Bella and Gabriel no longer hid their relationship. They walked together through the office, had lunch together, left the building holding hands. And though there were still some curious looks, respect for Bella's work had been restored. Her projects spoke for themselves. Her talent was undeniable. The Hamptons project was completed with resounding success, receiving Sustainable Architecture Awards and being featured in specialized magazines. Bella was at the peak of her career, and this time, no one questioned how she'd gotten there. 6 months later, Gabriel surprised her with a weekend trip. "Where are we going?" Bella asked as he drove, a mysterious smile playing on his lips. "You'll see." When they arrived at the airport, Bella laughed in disbelief. "Seriously? An airport? Where it all began," Gabriel said, taking her hand, seemed appropriate. He led her to the boarding gate, the same gate where they'd met, where she'd vented about the horrible, ugly boss without knowing she was sitting next to him. And there, in the middle of the busy gate, Gabriel knelt down. Time stopped. Passengers stopped, watching. Bella covered her mouth with her hands, tears already flowing. "Bella Torres," Gabriel began, his voice emotional but steady, "you came into my life like a storm, literally and figuratively. You challenged me, irritated me, made me laugh, made me feel things I thought were beyond my capacity. You made me want to be better, do better." He opened a small velvet box, revealing a diamond ring that caught the light and threw rainbows around. "On that turbulent flight, you held my hand because you were afraid. Today I'm asking you to hold my hand forever, not out of fear, but out of love. Marry me, Bella, build a life with me, create our future the way you create your projects, with passion, vision, and that incredible heart that captivated me from the first moment." Bella was sobbing now, unable to form words. Then she simply nodded frantically and whispered, "Yes. Yes, yes, yes." Gabriel slid the ring onto her finger and stood up, pulling her into his arms and spinning her, while the entire gate exploded in applause and cheers. When he set her back down and kissed her, it was like sealing all the promises they'd made, all the storms they'd survived, all the love that would continue to grow. A year later, Bella sat by the window of a plane, head resting on Gabriel's shoulder, wedding ring gleaming on her finger. They were on their way to Paris for their honeymoon, finally. Work had delayed the trip for months, but now finally it was just theirs. Gabriel took her hand, kissing her fingers gently. "Do you remember what you told me on that first flight?" he asked, green eyes dancing with humor. Bella groaned but smiled. "That you were a cold, ugly monster." "Exactly that." He laughed, the sound rich and warm. "And now, I'm the luckiest man in the world to be yours." Bella turned to face him completely, her heart so full it seemed about to overflow. "And I'm the woman who fell in love with a stranger in the middle of turbulence, literally." She traced the line of his jaw tenderly. "But you know what I discovered?" "What?" "That the best stories begin with turbulence, because it's in moments of chaos that we discover who we really are, what we're made of, and who we want to weather the storms with." Gabriel pulled her closer, kissing her forehead, then her nose, finally her lips in a sweet kiss full of promises. "Then here's to turbulence," he murmured against her lips, "and to all the storms yet to come. Because with you by my side, Bella Ashford, I can face anything." Bella smiled, nestling closer as the plane crossed the sky, carrying them to new adventures, new beginnings. And down below, the world kept turning. But up there, at 30,000 feet, two hearts beat as one, united by turbulence, strengthened by the storm, and eternally connected by the love that refused to be destroyed. Because in the end, it was the turbulence that brought them together, and it would be love that kept them that way, forever. In the end, Bella and Gabriel discovered that true love isn't the kind that emerges in calm waters, but the kind that's born in the midst of chaos and chooses to stay when everything falls apart. They learned that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the courage to give yourself completely, even knowing it might hurt. That trusting again after betrayal requires more strength than building walls. And that sometimes the best stories begin with turbulence, because it's precisely in moments of falling that we discover who's truly willing to hold our hand. And you? Have you found someone worth weathering the storm for? If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and become a member to get early access to upcoming stories. And if you felt it was really worth listening to, also click the Super Thanks button. Your gesture makes all the difference and helps us continue bringing narratives that move you. Oh, and comment where you're listening to this story from. I love knowing our words reach so many different places.